And we are live here on Every Point's a Winner. Thanks for joining me on Friday. It is now the 6th of June, and we are cutting through the year quickly like a hot knife through butter. And we're celebrating the Knights. All the fans are celebrating. What a win last night. They gave a 16-0 lead. Manly gave them a 16-0 lead, and they got smashed in the second half. So what a comeback, and fancy Kalen Ponga, what a champion he is to score the winning try and hunt the young kid that usually plays on the wing, but he was in the centres with a few. I think we lost more players to injury. And admittedly, they lost Hopewadi, who was our banker, mind you. So most of our bets, if you got the tips from the website, I left the tips on there for you because we were doing a Friday program today. And we had Hoppers, who had a disallowed try. He didn't quite get enough downward force on the ball. And we had him into Tolito Kola, who went over. He was the first official try or second try for Manly. And then we had Fletcher Sharp. He ended up scoring 2 tries. So well done there, Fletcher Sharp. And well done to the Newcastle Knights. So I'm glad I watched the press conference, and Adam O'Brien was very disheartened with the booing, knowing that Newcastle were giving their 100%, even though some of the young players, some of them had only had 4 or 5 games so far in the NRL competition. So he was very disheartened by that. And yeah, don't boo your side. Look, there's times where I wanted to boo at home silently, but I'd never go and knowing that there's so many replacement reserves playing and then boo those young kids. It's very disheartening for the side and everyone that follows the side that's under the pump. So congratulations there, because that's a big win against Manly, and it throws the competition into some more turmoil. But let's get on with the matches that are really important, and we're here for. I think we ended up winning about $12 last night if you followed those tips. We were an inch away. We had Ethan Bullimore, as you remember, from the posting. We had Ethan Bullimore as the third leg, and we also had Dale Cherry Evans chucked in there as well, but both of them just missed out. The Ethan Bullimore would have meant that we won about $150. But anyway, $12 is better than a smack in the face. So rather than getting a smack in the face, let's get into the information here that's really important to us. So let's go to the first match tonight, and it's only a couple of hours away, in fact, down at Amy Park. It's the early start with a 6 o'clock, and then the second game is at 8 o'clock or 8:30 kickoff. So we'll get to that shortly, but let's get into this first match, and it is Melbourne Storm versus Cowboys. I'm just clicking on that. Melbourne Storm versus Cowboys, and we'll have a look at the team list, who's ins and outs. Harry Grant's in with Xavier Coates, so that's a big plus for Melbourne at their home ground. In also for the Cowboys is Braden Burns, Carl Lawton, who I'm a little bit of a fan of, Thomas McKaylee, and outs is Jake Clifford. I don't know why Jake's out. It's still got me perplexed, that firing of Jake Clifford. And Kai O'Donnell is also out. Joe Chan's out for Melbourne. Let's get on to the matchups here. And, of course, it's Pappenhausen against Drinkwater, who was one of our bankers last week and collected the bickies for us. Darby against Anderson. Laybutt against Howarth. Valami against Nick Meaney. And then you got Coates against Powell. Jackson Purdue up against Munster. That's an interesting mixture. The kid, the up-and-coming champion kid against champion Munster. the Statesman. Jerome Hughes up against Dearden. That's a great matchup too. The forwards, we got Utokomano Stefano against McLean. Reece Robson against Harry Grant. That's a great matchup. Two great state of origin players. Yes, Grant didn't have the best of games in that first match, but I'm sure he's going to make a big comeback. Josh King against McIntyre. Sean Bloor up against Bateman. Jerome Nanai, who unfortunately didn't score for us in the origin, but he scored in the round for us. Elise Katoa, that's a really good matchup. Nanai and Katoa there. Liero and Cotter. And the interchange benches we'll go through shortly. The main two changes there. Griffin Neem, the redhead. Bronson Garlick for Melbourne, and Tyron Wishart, who scored a try last week. He came on as the replacement reserve. And Harrison Edwards, we haven't heard too much from him this year. So let's get to the odds. It's $1.20 at home. Melbourne expected to win this one. And if you like value, Cowboys at 460. But I think a lot of people are probably not going to take that risk, but that's really good odds if you like the odds and you think there's going to be a Friday night upset. I don't think so, but it would not surprise me. After last night, when the Knights came from 16-0 down at halftime and unceremoniously got booed off at halftime, and then won the second half in an amazing fashion. Okay, let's go to the next page, and it is the value here. So they're running fourth on the ladder, Melbourne, and sixth, North Queensland. 7 wins to Melbourne and 4 losses to Melbourne, and 5 wins to Cowboys and 5 losses, so 50-50 there. But Melbourne have done a little bit better and are in front of them in the competition. Last time they played was round 26, and it was a surprise victory up there in Townsville. North Queensland 38 defeated Melbourne 30, a high-scoring match. So every time I'm here in the little studio we have here, I get a really itchy nose, so excuse me for my itchy nose. Okay, let's get to the thing that's important for us, and finding the first 2 bankers to stand out anytime try scorers out with. Let's have a look here for value. We may chuck an odds-on shot in there, which I'll tell you is Grant Anderson at $1.55, Coates at $1.55, Falago, who's only reserved at $1.55, Pappenhausen $1.60. Derby is when you get out into the even money of 5 to 4, $2.15 there for Robert Derby. So let's see if we can find a nice banker here. I'd like to stand out Elise Katoa because he's been so good to us. Hasn't scored for a couple of games. This may be his game. Harry Grant, he scored for us a couple of games ago, but that was before his origin exclusion. So from the team. So let's have a look here. Jackson Purdue. I'm still not happy with him in his position, but at least he scored from there last week. Okay, Thomas Dearden, $4.25. That's really good value. Don't want to hang out with him off the mark here, so we're going to stick in. Elise Katoa. I think Elise Katoa will go over in this match. 275 is our first banker for Melbourne. I'm going to chuck in Jerome Hughes because he let us down last week and he hasn't scored for a couple of games, Jerome Hughes. Hopefully he straightens up the line of play here, and instead of going from east to west, goes forward, because that's when Jerome Hughes is dangerous. And then we're going to go Jackson. Did I say Jackson Purdue yet? No, I haven't. So Katoa, Hughes and Purdue for North Queensland is the third leg. The fourth leg, Ryan Pappenhausen, we're going to swing back to the $1.60. Grant Anderson at $1.55. Coates at $1.55. Let's chuck in Coates for the 6th place. If you're desperate to salvage a third leg or try and get one of your doubles up to at least get your outlay money back. We do need try scorers, so let's chuck in Xavier Coates there as the 6th leg, but let's go back to the 5th leg. And so we had Pappy as our 4th leg there after Purdue. Let's chuck in Jackson Polo at 240. Jackson Polo, who went over last start. Okay, I think that will be an exceptionally close game. I'd be surprised if Melbourne won this one 13 plus. Some people are tipping him 13 plus to bounce back. And I don't think North Queensland are going to lay down. They can't really afford to. So although it's in Amy, they're not that they haven't played that great in the night, especially if there's any soft conditions underfoot. Melbourne have not, excuse me, folks. Melbourne have not played very well at night, nor wet underfoot or with wet weather conditions. So I'm going to say Melbourne here 1-12, and I would not laugh at you if you gave me Queensland 1-12 either. So let's take them both. We took both of the guys last night on the margins, as you saw on my posting. We took Knights 1-12 and also Manly 1-12. And that salvage gave us salvage into this second round here. Dolphins versus St George is the second match here, and I would hazard a guess here. Let's go back to where the page is. We've just lost our page there. Come back here. Okay. The NRL website, it's just closed down. Okay, and we're going to that page there. So that's at 8 o'clock, the second match tonight. And it's $1.45. Long odds on favourite here at Suncorp Stadium at their home ground, the Dolphins, Redcliffe Dolphins. They don't like to be called Redcliffe anymore, but that's a fact. The Dolphins running 10th and St George 8th. I think St George have had 2 byes, so that could be a bit of a misgiving there. Let's have a look at the team list for ins and outs, and I think there's good news for St George fans because I believe Christian Tuapoloto is back. And yes, according to this, even though a week ago or so they said he was back, he got pulled out again. But he's in this time. So is Emre Gula, Lachlan Elias, who's a good defender, but he's a little bit clumsy with his hands in attack. Raymond Falatua Mariner is back for St George. Oblix Tawa is in for the Dolphins. Hamasai is back. Hamasai Tabuai-Fidow. Jeremy Marshall-King, that's big news for the Dolphins. And Max Plath, the Beast. The Beast is back. Now, out is Ray Stone, Max Feagai or Fane, Sean O'Sullivan for the Dolphins, Hammy Saleh, Jaden Sewer, that's a little bit of a loss there for St George, and Tyrell Sloan is out for some strange reason. Maybe I'm not a giant fan. I'm a fan of Tyrell Sloan, but who knows whether he's injured there or not. Be surprised if he got shanked. Maybe he got shanked to put in Christian Tuapoloto. That one has me a bit perplexed. I'm sure it has the St George fans a little bit perplexed as well. Let's go over to the market that's really important for us. It's $1.48. Dolphins head-to-head. St George 265. Now, if we click on that, they're running 8th, as I said, and 11th Dolphins, 8th St George. 26-6 last time they met. Pretty decisive victory from St George. That was at Jubilee Oval, or Stadium as they like to call it now. And let's have a look at our anytime try scorers here. Hamasai Tabuai-Fidow leads the market at $1.85. Then we have Jermaine Asako, $1.95. Tuapoloto, $1.95. I think we're going to use him as an anchor, but not the banker. We're going to definitely put him in our selections, though. First run back with the Hammy it's a risk, but hopefully they've got him right to really hit the line here. Lemuelu has been so good to us this year. Although he hasn't scored for the last 2 matches, we had him when he scored 2 matches ago at a really good price. So Jacob Little, well, didn't I tell you when I tipped him last week he wouldn't score? Hopefully his guys got onto that. Let's have a look. He's still 425. We'd never know how much time he's going to get, and that's the problem. I'd like to see him on there for at least 40 minutes and even more. I'd have him on maybe 10 minutes before half time. But I'm not the coach, and Flanagan seems to be getting St George across the line over the last couple of weeks. Let's see if they can do 3. This time they're outsiders. David Clemmer played really well in that game that I watched the replay of recently, and Jack de Belin played exceptionally well. Crikeys, if you could get those guys to score, but they're not try scorers. They're just great players that hit the ball up, big defenders. They're both the rank outsiders there at 8-1. Felice Kafusi, he's a really good price here. He hasn't gone over for some time. Molo's 650. I'm just looking at some of the value here for the Dolphins. Even the St George player there at 6-1 is not bad. He scored about 4 matches ago. Hamish Stewart. He could be a rough one you could put in. Kyle Flanagan looked like he was going to score last week. He was inches from scoring. He could be a bolter today. Let's move further down the line here. Jeremy Marshall-King, he's just coming back. We've got to give him a bit of time, I think. Fini Fuiaki, reasonable price. Cody Nikorima. God, we had him last time, and they took the try off him when they kept on looking at the replay over and over and over again. They took the try away from him and cost us about $150. So that was very disappointing from the bunker funds. Herbie Farnworth has virtually scored the last 5 to 6 matches, and still they put him up. Oh, they've finally put him into 220. He used to be about 250, but they've finally woken up with themselves. Gutho, who we had last week, went over. He's going to be going for 4 games in a row where he scores. Let's start with a bit of value. I'm going to stand out Cody Nikorima here and take a chance. I've got a feeling Dolphins are going to cause an upset here, and especially up at Suncorp. So I'm sticking in Cody Nikorima 350. Although I think it's going to be an awfully tight match, I also think Dolphins would not surprise me to run away with this match a little bit more than 13 plus. But so Cody Nikorima there is our first banker at 7-2. Beautiful. 350. Then we're going to go out to Connolly Lemuelu, who's absolutely a lethal machine. He's a bit like an Ola Kawatu for Manly when he's on the burst, running at that angle near the try line. So Lemuelu, although he doesn't get the full match, he's lethal when he comes on, and he's been so good to us. He's our second leg there. Then we're going to head over to St George, and we're going to chuck in. I'd love to chuck in Toby Couchman or Kyle Flanagan. Let's go for Kyle Flanagan here because it's really good value. This is a big value game, I believe, at $5. Then we're going to spin back and head towards Herbie Farnworth. We can't leave him out. Herbie Farnworth at 220. And now I've got a gun put to my head. I want Averillo in there because when they dropped him back to fullback last start to cover for the hammer, we didn't put him, and he cost us dearly at a really good price of 3-1. So Jake Averillo, we'll put him in next. And if you want a 6th leg, I'd be tossing up between Clint Gutherson and Hamasai Tabuai-Fado, but they're both close to odds on. Clint Gutho, though, is a little bit better at 250 there. He gave us great value in that St George game last week. I'm steering away from Jacob Little and Valentine Holmes because every time we have him, he won't go over. So make a note, folks, because if Valentine Holmes or Jake a little go for St George, you know why, because I haven't tipped them. But let's move on to the next match. So I'm going for Dolphins there, 1-12. I'm going for the single there. The single standout of margin, 1-12. I'm not going to have egg on my face if St George win this 1-12. If they win 13 plus, well, that's going to be a big surprise to me. I don't know whether they've got enough tries in them to beat the Dolphins at home when Dolphins have been very hungry this year. They've been a little bit hot and cold, and they've had games won and thrown them, thrown it at the wall. So I think that's the go. I can't see, unless the mad St George supporters think that they're going to do a number on them. But up at Suncorp, if it was a Jubilee, I'd agree with you, St George 13 plus there. So that was the Friday night matches over. Let's go on to tomorrow, the Saturday matches. We've got a game at 5:30. That's Cronulla and Warriors. And then we have Brisbane versus Gold Coast at 7:35, excuse me. And then Sunday we've just got the two matches, and of course the possibly the game of the round on the holiday Monday. It's just a little drink here. The holiday Monday is Bulldogs versus Parramatta, and that's at 4:00. That should be capacity crowd. I don't know. We're getting crappy weather surrounding us here. Just reminding you guys, be careful if some of these places get drenched over the next 12 hours. Be careful. Go easy on your bets. Don't go hardcore, because that's when you get smashed and surprise try scorers get up. Well, they certainly do against my tips. So be careful, tread carefully, and just keep an eye on the weather. We might just have a quick gaze at the weather here. Let's have a look here for a second and just see what the forecast is. Tomorrow, they're tipping 8 to 9, and it was freezing this morning. I don't know how you guys went getting up to go to work. I got up for training, and I had to convince myself with a very strong coffee to get to training, because even the pool water was freezing, and they only had half the people that they usually have in that pool, because some of the older people that swim down there were getting hammered with that temperature. It's no good for them. So looking at Sunday, it's partly cloudy with possible showers. Just keep an eye on it, guys. And Monday is similar conditions. It's going to be cold. We'd like some sunshine, but it looks like it's going to be partly cloudy. So let's pray for some sunshine. If those bastards stop putting some trails in the sky, we might have a nice day or two over the weekend. Looks like I've missed another phone call from someone. Some chat group. Okay, we're not going to worry about that. All right, let's get on to this match that we're talking about here. Get rid of that. The weather we've done. So it's important, because if you go really hardcore, and we have before, once or twice we've adjusted. But one time I got whacked on a Friday night, and it was torrential. It might have been that Melbourne game a couple of weeks ago against Gold Coast, and we absolutely got hammered from half of our bank over the whole weekend just on that one game. So we didn't get a collect. It was horrendous. Okay, so let's head back to the match we were talking about, and it's Cronulla versus the Warriors. They come up at $1.45, very skinny here. This would be at Cronulla's home ground. We'll just double check that. And we'll also have a look at the ins and outs for that game. And it is at Shark Stadium, or Endeavour Oval as we used to know it as kids. And I think I played there a couple of times as well for Brighton Seagulls and Ramsgate United. Okay, team lists here. Ins and outs, that's really important. So for the Sharks, Hahipa Puru is in. Jaden Beryl, who's a pretty good player. Niwai Peru, I don't know some of these players. Sione Katoa, good to see him back. He must have been out for some time. Teague Wilton's been out with injury as well. Now, the really good news for the Warriors is Ali Leotola is back. He's one of my favourite players. Samuel Healy is back. Tane Tuapiki, one of my favourite little speed machines, Speedy Mice or Speedy Mouse. Tanner Boyd, who used to play with the Gold Coast Titans. Stower Smith is back as well, and Torn Ali. So that's interesting. Mitchell Barnett, wasn't that horrendous. He had to jump the player and he twisted his knee and he's gone for the season, I think. ACL. That's a big loss to New South Wales for the second match, let me tell you that. And Rocco Berry's out. Was that from suspension? He may be serving time. I'm not quite sure why. One of my favourite players, Rocco Berry, is out. And also out is Ronaldo Mulatalo. He could be sporting an injury there. We haven't really got time. We're trying to get our tips out here tonight. So let's have a look and go straight to the try scorers. This could be, knowing Endeavour Oval or Shark Park, it could be a bit wet. Looking at the clouds surrounding me here now in the St George area. Warriors are third, Cronulla are fifth on the ladder, and because the home ground of the Sharks, it seems as though they're going to hold the market here. The line betting is 6.5 both ways, $1.90. Seems to be the same thing they do for most matches, the line betting. Not that interested in that for this game. But let's go to the try scorers. That's what we're here for. Sione Katoa runs up the market here at $1.85. Kale Iro, who has not let us down this year. Kale Iro is $2.10. He may even be a banker. But I'd like to, because I'm tipping the Warriors to win this match, I'm liking Luke Metcalf again, who has not let us down this year either. But I also like quite a few other players. And one of my favourite players, every time we pull him in and put him in at the last minute, Lika Halasima, he got us a good collect last week with doubles. Did we get the treble? We just missed out on the treble. But Lika Halasima scored for us. That's right. We wanted Isaiah Tass for our third leg. That cost us another $150 to $200. These doubles we're only having for $1.50, $2 max. So if you can get those three legs, they're not the mainstay. Our main goal is to have your two standouts, and then you mix them with your other 4 or 5 selection maximum, and then you mix all the third to the 6th selection to cover them for $1 or $2. Sometimes $1.50. That double we had, the treble we had going last night in the Knights match and Manly was $1.50. And I was getting $95 back for that $1.50 had Ethan Bullimore gone over, and he burst away and he looked like he was going to score, but Fletcher Sharp picked him up. All right, let's have a look here. I'd really like to stand out one of the Maori boys, and I'd like to stand out one of the Kiwis here, Adam Pompey. He's too hot and cold. He may go over if I don't put him in there. I really want to stand out Luke Metcalf, and I'm going to. Luke Metcalf at $2.90. That's nearly 3-1. So we're going to go for Luke Metcalf as our banker there. Then we're going to put another Auckland Warrior in, and we're going to chuck in Kurt Capewell, who's playing in the centres. He's playing out of his skin this year. I said to Scotty, just as a bit of a tongue-in-cheek joke, but I no pun intended, but I meant it. Put in for your Queensland side. Put in after last night, Dane Gagai. Put in your 2 old players and Kurt Capewell. I reckon they'll do just as good. They're playing out of their skin, especially Capewell. Let's put him in for the second leg For the third leg, we're gonna stick in Lika Halasima, even though he doesn't get the full 80 minutes. Lika Halasima as our third leg, and then we're going to spin it over to the St George. We're going to head over towards the Shire and chuck in Adam Fanua-Blake here. I reckon they're going to try and bash him too, because don't forget he was a Warrior, but he might stand up here and fight back. Adam Fanua-Blake as our fourth leg. As our fifth leg, I'm going to chuck in Teague Wilton coming out of injury. Teague Wilton, and one more for Cronulla. We got to chuck him in there. Kale Iro for the Cronulla Sharks, because he's still $2.10, and that's exactly what we want. Of course, you have Katoa at $1.85. If you're desperate and you want to mix and match, you can either chuck him in, or if you like Warriors to really get the offensive happening, you could chuck in Dylan Watini Zalesniak, because he's 210 as well, or even William Kennedy at 260. But we did have William Kennedy going for a really good three-leg parlay one time, and he just couldn't cross the line, and yet he'd score. He scored 2 or 3 matches in a row prior to that. So I've got a long memory, but short-term memory as far as some of the players are concerned, but that one hurt. That burned us here. So anyway, that's what I think. I think Warriors 1-12 there. Wouldn't be surprised if Cronulla. Do we put in a multi there and chuck in Cronulla at 1-12 in case it's an upset? It won't be an upset according to the bookmakers, but I think Warriors should be favourite. And they've been travelling well to other places this year. Yeah, chuck them in as your second leg there, Cronulla 1-12, just in case. If it's a really, really, really tight match in the wet conditions, I still think the Warriors play really well in the wet. So Warriors there 1-12, and as your second leg there, both sides 1-12. I can't see Warriors or Cronulla steaming away with it 13 plus. Well, that'd be a surprise and an upset if that happened for mine, because of the evenness of this competition. They're both busting to keep in that top 6 out of the top 8 sides there. So let's get on to the next match for the Saturday and have a look at the ins and outs. And let's see here. We have a game that Scotty will be holding his breath with. Broncos versus Titans. I think last time they played, Titans caused a boil over. That might have been last year. Let me just double check this. It is at Suncorp Stadium. Really have a look at the Brisbane weather. That's going to be really important. Be careful. If it's raining, half your bets. If you're putting them on before the game, half an hour before the game, try and get your money on maybe 45 minutes before the game to make sure and double check your tickets. Because I remember I was rushing one time. I only had 5 minutes to put an anytime try score on, and it was a double. And I accidentally put that double for $45 and hit yes. And I thought it was a double for $4.50, because it was a short price one, and it cost me $45 straight out of the account. So be careful, double check, and don't leave yourself too short for time. Okay, let's have a look at the team list. This is really important. Ins and outs. Reece Walsh is back, is he? Yes, Reece Walsh. Let's see how good he is fresh. Then you got Karapani is back. Jaden Hunt is back, and Blake Mozza. Don't mind Blake Mozza. Ins also for the Titans, or AJ Brimson's back. One of our nemesis here, as far as try scorers are concerned. He used to be one of my favourite players. 2 years ago, I'd bank him all the time. He'd be my main banker, AJ Brimson, and he'd virtually score every week when the Titans were on fire. But anyway, now I tend to, every time I have him, he goes silent, and every time I don't have him, he'll get up. So anyway, he's one of those players, you just got to live and breathe with it and get over it. Alan Fitzgibbon, He's in. Josh Paxton is in again. Ryan Foran. That's like Kieran Foran's brother. It could well be there for the Gold Coast. Sean Mullany, Mullany, and Tua Mihi Simpkins. Tua Kamiki Simpkins. Jojo Jafita's out, and Sam Verillas seemingly broke his hand. So he's out as well. Jojo Jafita, God, he let us down a couple of weeks in a row now. When we tipped Gold Coast last week as ATTS. So let's have a look here. The matchups: Reece Walsh against Jaden Campbell. That's who got us last week. Campbell scored that beautiful try at about 4-1. That hurt. Selwyn Cobbo there is back on the wing against Khan Pereira. That's a really good matchup. Katoni Staggs against Kelly. Shibasaki against Sami. Philip Sami, yeah, we did have him last week, but we didn't have the Jaden Campbell who'd moved to fullback. I think his position is very good there at fullback, but so is AJ Brimson's. And then we have Kieran Foran against Ezra Mann. Adam Reynolds against Tom Weaver. Oof, that's a question mark with Tom Weaver. Hasn't had the greatest of seasons so far. Corey Jensen up against Futuaki. Corey Pikes against Sean Moloney. And then Campbell, Regan Campbell Gillard against Payne Haas. Good luck, Regan. Haas has been playing out of his skin lately. Brendan Piakura against Chris Randall. Jordan Ricky against Bo Fermor. That's a good matchup. I think Bo Fermor still wants to stand up after his subpar effort when he didn't get much time, though, when he came on for Queensland in the last State of Origin. Patrick Carrigan against Tina Fa'asamawali. So that's a good matchup as well there. Okay, so let's go straight to the important part and pick a anytime try score, and we can pick a winner as well. I'm going to give Brisbane one last chance. I said to Scotty last week after they've only won like one out of their last 5 or 6 games. I said I'm not going to tip them with any bravery. And Gold Coast could cause a boil over here. They really, really could. So let's have a look here. Yeah, the last time they played, Gold Coast won 46-18. I think we scooped the pool that day because we had Campbell, we had Brimson, we had Bo Fermor, and we got a really good 2 or 3 parlays. But that was last year before we even had the program every point's a winner. But they whacked Broncos. But that was round 22, and Broncos still were trying to work out whether they were going to make the top 8 or not. So let's go to the anytime try scorers here. Jesse Arthurs leads the market up at $1.60. Then you have Dean Mariner, $1.70 with Cobbo 65. Reece Walsh, $1.90. A bit of value there for Walshy. Ezra Mann, 2-1. Then you have Katoni Staggs, 240. Don't know why Staggs is so short. He is due to score. He scored 2 games ago. Jaden Campbell, 250, not bad value. Piakura hasn't scored for a long time, 290. And then you go out as far as Brimson at 310, Jordan Ricky at 350, Bo Fermor at 350. That's very good value there. Don't know whether we want to have him as a lead leg here as a standout. Kieran Foran 5s. Cleese Haas 5s. Up against his brother, isn't he? Unbelievable if he gets a run. Tyson Smoothie hasn't gone over for a long time for Brisbane. Billy Walters, could this be a surprise try for Billy Walters? He's got us 1 or 2 interesting collects, and you'll always get 9-2 about him. 4.5-1, Billy Walters. I don't really want to stand him out. We might chuck him in though. So Brisbane, I would say, could easily win this game 13+, but I said that last time and they got beaten by 13+. But I'd stand out Brisbane 1-12, and I would not laugh at you if you told me the Gold Coast were going to win this game 1-12. I'd look at you a little bit strange if you told me 13+, but it wouldn't surprise me. Hopefully it doesn't happen for Scotty. Scotty, who's hosted the program here with us many times. Best of luck with your new job too, Scotty. Hopefully it's going well for you. Ezra Man, still good value there against all odds. Katoni Stags can't rely too much on a lot of their players. Philip Sami, we're going to be as the leader here for Gold Coast. Although I'm tipping Brisbane, I did say I wasn't going to do this last week, but I don't have a. Have I got a Brisbane player that's jumping out at me? So, and I won't. I will refuse to take odds on for the two lead bankers, which are the main two players in our tips, and then we have all the multis with it. Oh, I really want to say Sami, but I promised I wouldn't do that again because last week when we had Isaiah Tass, he cost us a fortune by us not having Alex Johnson and Mitchell. We had them too far down the list. We had them, but we didn't have them as a lead banker. So let's gun to the head. I'm going to do what I said. I'm not going to go back on my word. We'll stick out. We're gonna. I don't. I am, and I won't tip odds on. That's another thing I will not do. Tip odds on as a lead banker, and unless it's $1.95 and it's against exceptional circumstances. We're going to go for Shibasaki here at 2.30 as the lead banker, because I'm not going against my word. Then we're going to stick in as the second banker, which is just as important, Philip Sami at 2.90. So Shibasaki for Broncos. Then we're going to go Philip Sami as second banker. Third banker, we've got to put him in. AJ Brimson, 3.10. And then we're going to really focus on Bo for more. Adam Reynolds, we're going to chuck in at 3.75 as the fourth leg. And as the fifth leg, who let us down last week, I'm going to chuck in Xavier Willison, who really let us down last week, but he's good value at 3.75. Excuse me. It's so cold, the nose has just started running out of the blue. And Billy Walters, I'd have in there as a last leg ditch effort, as a sixth standout. So there you go. Mark those down in your book, and we'll move on to the next match. Now, the next match is the Sunday matches. We're going to carve up these last three games as quickly as possible. Canberra, $1.42 coming up against South, 2.90. This could be, yet again, these next two or three games could be vital for most games are vital for the top eight, but particularly this game for South against Canberra. So they will be throwing everything at them. And I think is Cody Walker back? We need to have a look at that right now. In fact, I think I had heard a rumour that he is back. So let me just double check. Going back to this match. Let's change pages again, the NRL. It's refreshed, and we don't want that. We want the draw. So let's go to the South versus at Canberra. Canberra's hosting these guys down in the freezing cold conditions. South will need to put their rabbit coats on and their big floppy ears. Team list. This is what we're interested in. Ins and outs. Jamal Fogarty is in, so that's a big plus for Canberra. Jed Stewart, Tom Starling, Trey Mooney. This could be the Canberra side that you really see whacking South here. But look who's back for South. Cody Walker, Jack Whiten, who's honestly played so tough when South have let their fans down. Jack Whiten has really played out of his skin. And they would have been beaten in a couple of those losses by a lot more if it wasn't for Jack Whiten's defence. Jacob Host is back. Thomas Fletcher. Tyrone Munro. So some really good inclusions there for South, as much as there is with Tom Starling and Jamal Fogarty being back for the Canberra Raiders. This is going to be a tough match. Wow. And you can't see you can't see either side just defending. You can see attack coming from both sides. A little bit like last week's game for South when they were coming back from the death. And the Canberra game. I think they're going to throw it around. It just depends. They might have to be a little bit careful if there's dew or if it's freezing cold conditions and the ground gets a little bit moist underfoot. They're going to have to be a little bit more careful with their handling. But these sides tend to throw caution to the wind and just go crazy as far as offensive attack is concerned. So let's have a look here and see if we can find some value. I'm going to, because of the extra inclusions here, I'd like to tip South. I really would. If someone could grab my hand and put it behind my back, I'd like to tip South, but I'm going to stick with the home ground advantage here and the cold for Canberra to win this game. And I just love those two inclusions of Fogarty and Starling because they were lacking them the previous match. So let's have a look here. We got some great matchups. Mitchell against Kaya Weeks, Savelli Tamale against Alex Johnson, Timoko against Whiten. Jesus, some great matchups. Big Campbell Graham against Sebastian Chris, who's been playing outstanding this season. Xavier Savage against Isaiah Tass. So Tass has moved back to the wing now. Ethan Strange against Cody Walker. Jamal Fogarty against Humphreys. Humphreys has been pretty solid this year. Josh Papali'i against Jai Arrow. Geez, some really good matchups. This is going to be an entertaining match. Tarpany the captain, had a great game and scored a beautiful try last week. And against Kolomatangi, these are great matchups. Hosking versus Duncan, and Horsburgh versus Hubner. Even the getting excited about this match already, I tell you. Okay, so if we go over to the TAB screen and have a look at the Canberra and South match, $2.90 South, $1.42 Canberra. Click on that. Last time they met, it was Canberra 32, destroying South Sydney Rabbitohs 12. So 20 points, 13 plus. Yeah, that's not off the cards, but there's so many great matchups. I don't think there's going to be much in this match. And South are pretty hungry this year, and they've got the super coach coming over from the Dolphins, who's done so well with them against so many teams where they've had half their side there. So I'll really give it to South, not just on their reputations of how many competitions they've won in the NRL, but their guts and glory. And Mitchell's playing out of his skin. Let's have a look here. And can we start off with a banker? The lead market is Tamale at $1.75 with Savage. So two Canberra players lead the market with Jet Stewart at $1.80. He's on debut. Must be Ricky's son. Alex Johnson, $1.90. Tyron Munro, $2.05. There's a bit of value there with Tyron Munro. $2.05. Kaya Weeks, $2.25. Fairly good. Hutto Young, $2.30. They're not letting him go at $2.50 or $2.80 anymore, are they? He scored in the last three matches. Latrell Mitchell, $2.50. Pretty good value there for Mitchell. Ethan Strange, $3.50. I'm tipping Canberra 1-12, but I'm also tipping South 1-12 to surprise me. I would also like to have the cover bet, but you can't have you can't spend that much money and have Canberra 13 plus. But it wouldn't surprise me if Canberra won this one 13 plus if something happens and the match is so close, and then Canberra just scored 2 or 3 late tries and put a bit of a roasting on the bunny. So I that wouldn't surprise me either. But to play it safe would stand out Canberra 1-12 and tip them to win, and also have South as the backup there 1-12. Cody Walker 4.25. I can't see him going over. He's not an elusive try scorer. He's not your top try scorer, but he does always present value, and you just don't know what he's thinking of. It's one of those elusive players. Timiko's been pretty consistent, scoring every second match recently, but we don't want to stand him out as a banker. We want to stand out. They're going to mark Hutto Young. You know they're going to mark him, but he's always in there trying. Let's stand out a South. No, we can't do that. It's against the rules. It's against our formula. I wanted to stand out Tyron Munro, but let's put him in there for second and stand out with Matthew Timoko at 275 because we're tipping Canberra. Matthew Timoko, 275. Now we're going to put in Tyron Munro for second at 205. Then we're going to spin out to Xavier Savage at $1.75. These are a little bit skinny for me. Hutto Young we'll put in there as the fourth selection at 230. Latrell Mitchell at 250. He's the fifth selection. And one more, I really want to put a guy that's going to give us value there. Jack Whiten at 375 as our fifth and sixth leg there. There's so many players that can score on this card here. Hang on. We're just getting a call from Scotty.
What a great game from the Knights.
Yes, brother, I'm live on air. You got anything to say to your fans? You're via radio. We're doing our Every Point's a Winner. Thank you very much about the Knights, mate. We're very happy about that. Any tips you got going forward there, brother? Yeah, mates. What about this game that I'm covering right now? I've just given the try scorers for the South versus Canberra match. That could go down to the wire, and it's going to be an entertaining match because they're all great try scorers in there. Yeah. So have I, brother. Yeah, so have I. I think there's going to be a major upset there, but it is at Suncorp, so they've got a bit of an advantage as well. And the Hammer's back, and one of their top forwards is back.
Yes.
And Marshall King. Marshall King. If I put the proverbial to your head, what would you tip me with the Broncos game? Because we know you're a crazy Bronco fan. Who would you be your anytime try scorers? Give me two for Broncos and one for the other side, the Gold Coast.
Shish kebab.
That's our standout, brother. Shish kebab. Shibasaki, yeah. Okay. Turn out for something more lolly. Okay. All right, mate. Anything else you've got to say to your public before I go? Because we've got to cut through these last two matches in the Canterbury Parramatta game with the ATTS. Well, you've made a fortune from my tips over the last 2 weeks, haven't you? Absolutely. Free money, they say, Peter Connor says. Classic, brother. All right, so all the best to you, Scotty. Just give me a quick tip with that Parramatta Canterbury game. It's going to be close, you would think.
Expected and well-resourced for Parramatta side that have now come off the bottom of the ladder.
All right, mate. Thanks very much. I've got to get back to the program. And all the best to our tips over the weekend and to your side, the Broncos. So, hey, make sure you bring your mace next time too. Knights are coming home, brother. They've started their run. Okay, bud. Okay, and you expect them to have a good match this weekend too. Well, I'll tell you what, you're going to get your value like you did last time. They come up at pretty good odds. Most of my punters here that follow us are only $2 and $1.50 parlay players. What are you saying about the $100? Some of them haven't even got it in their bank account. If you're Peter, you're going to have it in your bank account. Yeah, fair enough. That's what I was expecting from you. Thank you, Scotty. God bless and take care, mate. We're going to better get back to the program. Subscribe. Okay, mate. See you then. See you back in the castle. Bye. 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 Okay, guys, we'll keep on going with the. Thank you, Scotty, for the call. Some interesting tips there, and we were up to that match, the Canberra and South match. So we've given you the value there. So let's move on to the Penrith and the West Tigers match. Obviously, I would imagine that Scotty tipped the Panthers here, and most people will be. It's $1.30 Penrith Panthers and $3.50 to the Tigers. 13th on the ladder, West Tigers, haven't won for a while. And 15th, moving up the ladder, is Penrith, only a couple of wins away from the top 8. So let's have a look here, straight into the teams' ins and outs. That's going to be a real important thing for us. So as we head to the page we want, there it is, Tigers. And that game's at 4 o'clock on the Sunday. So that's a fairly early one. Let's look at the team list here. Ins and outs. Crikey. So there's a lot in for the Tigers. Charlie Murray, Zakem, Eli Zakem is in. Gerard Skelton. He's a big plus. I like Gerard Skelton. Kit Lalili, Latufano, Luke Lalili, Talon De Silva is in. He's a really good subby. In for the Panthers is Brad Schneider, a fairly good subby too. Isaiah Papali'i, big fella. Luke Garner, that's an important addition there. Paul Alamotti's back, that's good. And Trent Tolo, or Tolau, as they like to say. So let's have a look at the matchups. It's Jareem Buller against Edwards. Bit of a class mismatch there, but Buller's got amazing potential. And is a hell of a lot younger. Sunia Taruva against Jenkins. Well, Taruva's got the class there. Adam Dewey up against Isaac Targo. 50-50 there. Stafford Tower has been playing so well of late and got one of our doubles last week. Casey McLean is one of my favourite Penrith players, and he's always reasonable value around the 5-2 mark. Gerald Skelton's on the wing against Brian To'o, who didn't let anyone down in the Origin or the game he played last week for the Panthers. Heath Mason up against Blaze Talagi. Then you have Jerome Luai up against Nathan Cleary. Ooh, the old teammates head to head. This makes for great interest. Terrell May, who had one of his worst games this season, but he's usually consistently fantastic. I'd like to see him pick it up against Moses Leota, who had a big game last week. Apasai Coruscant up against Mitch Kenny. Both great players, more so Appy Coruscant with his attack, but Mitch Kenny's a phenomenal defender. Sione Fino up against Lindsay Smith. Lindsay Smith, haven't quite seen the best of Lindsay Smith this year, but he was a killer last year. Scott Sorensen up against Samuel Afinu. Some really good matchups here. Tony Suka against Liam Martin. Liam Martin hopefully will get a little bit more of a breather this time. He was gassed in that last game and played his heart out. Isaiah Yeo up against Alex Seyfarth. We do like Alex Seyfarth here on every points a winner. And it looks like Eisenhuth against Bird off the bench there. Latu Finu and Somerton for Penrith. And then down to Dane Laurie and Charlie Murray and Kit Lalili and Luron Pattaya. So let's go across to the thing that really matters, and that is the value for the anytime try scorers here on our 2 and 3 leg parlay special. Thomas Jenkins leads the market at $1.65, playing on the wing for Penrith there. We're at Brian To'o on the opposite wing, $1.65. Dane Laurie's very skinny at $1.80, even though he's gone over for a long while. Paul Alamotti. And thank you, TAB, for finally getting, I don't want to curse it. Let me knock on wood. I won't curse it, but at least we've got the indication of where the try scorers have scored their last game or they haven't. So at least we've got that as a form guide, so I don't have to continually focus and break the old brain skull there. Luke Lalili's 225. He's skinny, isn't he? Charlie Staines 225, a bit of a prolific try scorer. Luke Garner 230, a bit skinny. Buller 275. Stafford Tower. I don't know why they keep on putting this guy up at 310, but that's great value. Even though we're not tipping West Tigers here, I'd love to see a massive boil over. If I was asking for anything from the football gods, I would ask for a massive boil over here for West Tigers to cause a giant boil over the Penrith Panthers. But my football punting brain is telling me you've got to tip Penrith there, and we're going to tip them 1-12. And also, we're not going to double up on West Tigers, but I wouldn't be surprised if West Tigers cause that boil over. Couldn't see it being 13 plus, put it that way. But you could chuck them in as a second banker there at 1-12. Jareem Buller, very good odds here at 275, but we're not going to stand out the side we're tipping against. We're always going to stand out that side we're tipping. So I'm going to say he hasn't crossed over for a long time, but I'm going to say Liam Martin is going to score here. And at 350, you're not going to get better than 7-2 as your lead banker. The only trouble is you want him to score early in the match, so you've got all those doubles running off him, and then you've got your multiples going, and you've already picked up close to $30 or $25 if he scores by himself. So you got that covered, and then you just got to wait for your doubles to line up. So Liam Martin is our banker there for Penrith. And then we're going to head out a little bit wider here. And we're going to go to, I've got a feeling he's going to go over Isaiah Papali'i for Penrith at 4.75. And that's great value for your second leg. Sorry, I've got such an itchy nose. It's not running at least. That's a good thing. And then we're going to go for Latu Fanu for the West Tigers as our third leg. Latu Fanu. And come swing it back towards the Penrith Panthers here. I think it's time for Blaze Talagi to go over at 2.75 as our fourth leg. And fifth leg, you can't leave him out, Stafford Toa. He's been such a good player for us. The only guy I'm worried about leaving out, well, there's two guys I'm worried about leaving out, Casey McLean for Penrith and for West Tigers, Gerald Skelton, because he is a little bit of a prolific try scorer. So if you were desperate and you're in front from those first 3 or 4 games and you've got a bit of extra money, chuck in as a sixth leg those two players with your two main bankers for the Penrith Panthers and the West Tigers. Chuck them in, Casey McLean and at 2.20 and Gerald Skelton at 2.25. So there's really good value there. Let's head to the last match before we wrap it up today. And thanks for calling in, Scotty. Hopefully the program picked it up. I know the audio would have picked it up anyway, but so hopefully everyone could hear what you were saying. But Bulldogs $1.42 here on the Monday, the holiday Monday. Hopefully most people have got it off and can sit down there with a coldie, a nice bolter or wine or whatever you're relaxing with. 16th, the Parramatta Eels are running, and first, of course, leading the competition for quite a few weeks now, the Canterbury Bulldogs on 22 points, 12 points in front of Parramatta. So they're doing it fine. Let's have a look at the ins and outs. Will Lockie Galvin get a run? I've been tipped by looking at that program with Gus Gould, and I think Gus Gould said he may or may not, but you got to take Gus Gould's words with a grain of salt after saying we're not interested in Lockie Galvin. So I'd suggest that he's pretty right here that he's going to get it run in the reserve grade, Lockie Galvin, just to see how he goes. But wouldn't it be exciting if he got a 5 or 10 minute spell on the pitch? I don't know whether they're going to risk it. I think they will put him in the easier grade for this first game for the Dogs. Though it wouldn't have been nice if they started him. Let's go over the page here and have a look at the last match. $1.42, the Bulldogs, 2.88. They're not risking Parramatta. If they're risking Parramatta, they'd be like 4-1. So they're not stupid, these. The rivalry they've had over, as Scotty mentioned, over the 80s and 90s, been phenomenal rivalry between these two clubs. Many grand finals together too, with nothing in it. Okay, team list. This is what we want. Ins and outs. Saluka Fafita is in for Canterbury. Jacob Kiras, that's a big plus. Kurt Mann is in. Lachlan Galvin, well, there you go. Max King and Steve Crichton. Big inclusion there. Out for the Dogs is Luke Smith and Jack Underhill. For the Eels, we have Dean Hawkins, Joey Lozak. Then we have Samuela. I'm just going to move the screen a little bit. Samuela Loizu and Will Penasini. He's a good inclusion there for Parramatta. We're missing a call here. Hang on. Just when we're just about to finish. Yes, Scotty, what's going on, mate? We're just about to wrap up. Hello? Hello? You're on air, mate. What's going on? Oh, he sat on his phone. All right. He sat on his phone, folks. I need to put it on airplane mode. Okay. Because he wasn't answering me there. So let's just, because we need to wrap this up so it doesn't get too long in the tooth. So the first time try scorer here, no internet connection. Okay. We can't put it on airplane mode then, can we? We're just going to have to block him out for a second. Let's get back here to the NRL games. And we need to get our anytime try scorers out and then wrap it up for the day. And we've got the Canterbury colours in the back there and the Newcastle Knights Guernsey. It's too cold to be wearing it. I was going to wear it for you, but and really celebrate on that amazing victory last night. But last time they played Parramatta, 8-16, 16 to so nothing in it. And that was on the 23rd of March last year, but Canterbury hadn't hit their straps at that stage. So, but they still won by 8 points, 16-8. And that was at Combank Stadium. So let's go straight to the try scorers and wrap up today and really get our bets on in the next half an hour to an hour. We've got to get those bets on. Jacob Kiras leads the market at $1.70. Marcelo Montoya. There's one thing against Marcelo Montoya's game is his ball handling. He puts pressure on Canterbury if he's having one of those dropsy days, and he does have them. So watch out for Montoya. Blake Wilson is back at $1.90. Josh Adokar, $2.25. There's really good value there. So we're tipping Bulldogs to win this one by 1-12. Bulldogs at 1-12. But I'm also putting in that last selection to get your margins, 13 plus the Bulldogs. If Parramatta win 1-12, wouldn't surprise me. Would not surprise me at all. But I feel with Steve Crichton back in there and a couple of other players, I think they're going to be very, very hard to toss here. Okay, Josh Curran, we stood him out last time and he caused us grief. Dylan Brown, Mitchell Moses, they're all good value here. Which will we stand out for our banker? Matt Burton hasn't gone over for a couple of games now. He scored for us last time. Valami Kikau. Let's stand him out as the banker, and I don't usually stand out forwards. I've just got a feeling that Valami Kikau is going to open up our account. On the burst, through the gap. Valami Kikau, $2.90 for the Bulldogs. Then we're going to go Steve Crichton at $2.75. Steve Crichton, $2.75. Then we're going to spin it back to Parramatta. Josh Adokar, good value at $2.25 for our third leg. Then for our fourth leg, Bronson Sherry, $2.30. You're crazy if you leave him out. And for our fifth leg, God, I want to chuck in Josh Curran. I really do, because we're only going to have him a couple of times. I'm tossing up between Moses, Brown, Penasini, and Curran. I don't want to have them all unless I've got a lot of money going into that last game. Let's chuck in Dylan Brown as our fifth selection, and I'm going to have Josh Curran as an emergency. There you go, folks. That is every point's a winner. And thank you, Scotty. Hopefully it came out in the recording. Join us. I think we've got that game on Monday. We're going to try and we usually do a wrap up and a post review on the Monday, but I don't think we're going to have time because that game will take us into Monday night. So we'll try and get it done on Tuesday after I head off to the office, prison, and I will try and present that on the Tuesday afternoon or early Tuesday night for the review. Thanks, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us here on Every Point's a Winner. Whatever you do, please like, subscribe. There's a few people I want to say a cheerio to before we leave. Like, subscribe, because if it doesn't get enough attention, the program gets put to the bottom of the list. No one knows it's on unless you've subscribed. So if you have any football mates that love rugby league, love the NRL, they're crazy Bulldogs, Parramatta fans, whatever, any of the 17 sides, get on, especially the Maori boys. I'd like to get a few Maori boys on here. I swim with a couple of them down the road here, and like to get on the Rabbitoh himself, Arthur. I'm gonna. I did say to Arthur in the pool the other day. I said, Arthur, if you come on, South will be in the top six. If they get into the top six, well, no, it was top four. I said, if they at least get fourth or equal fourth, you're coming on. Don't give me no for an answer. And he just laughed and he goes, okay. So we might have Arthur, the crazy Rabbitoh, top bloke. Couldn't meet a better, nicer bloke down there. And we have some incredible belly laughs in between our swimming, our hardcore training that we do down at the Aquatic Centre. So, ladies and gentlemen, a big shout out to one of the biggest Canberra fans. He's going to be chewing his nails this weekend. Steve Lammy, a big shout out to you, Steve Lammy. Lloyd Riffies, if you're there, you're probably in Vietnam somewhere with many of your girlfriends. So a big hello to you. A big hello to Tsunami Sash. A big hello to another crazy Macedonian in Slavko Zabevsky out there at Qantas. A big hello to Peter Connors, who's up in the Gold Coast, possibly celebrating his birthday. He's not celebrating Tottenham sacking their coach after winning some European Cup or European League. So he's not celebrating that. Very disappointing that Tottenham have stabbed Ange Postecoglou, but they like results through the league ladder, not necessarily just winning. They're pretty ruthless, the people that run Tottenham Hotspur. So anyway, a big shout out to you and enjoy your birthday, mate. He's heading off to overseas to watch Manowar do Sign of the Hammer and How to England album, I think, live in Europe, somewhere over there. So he's going to have a great month ahead for him there, Peter Connors, the Phantom of the Opera House. God bless you all, and may the best side win. Keep an eye on the weather. Half your bets if it's really bad conditions and it's exceptionally wet underfoot. Until next week, Axel Phillips, like, subscribe. If you disagree or dislike, put it in the comment section and I'll get back to you ASAP. Like, subscribe, and share. Bye for now.